Greetings, dear viewers. Today we come together for the new episode of Devtorium Podcast. And let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Oksana, and I'm a middle data analyst and data science expert at Devtorium. My work basically is all about data, and lots of it. On one hand, I work on collecting, cleaning, interpreting data so we can spot trends, solve problems, and make better decisions. On the other hand, I dive into machine learning to improve data quality, find hidden patterns, and build models. For example, to forecast outcomes and reveal new insights.
Nice to meet you once again. And I'm Olena. I'm senior data analyst, data science expert, and I also lead our data science department at Devtorium. Actually, my journey in data science started more than 10 years ago, and I hope it will continue for many more years. And today, we want to talk about something that every modern company should have, and that is strategic data management.
Great. So that is really a crucial point. Many companies still don't handle data properly, and high-quality data is essential for the successful implementation of advanced analytics and AI systems.
Right. And that is why today we want to explore the fundamental data quality elements from both sides of this topic. The challenges caused by poor data quality and the strategies that help businesses build actionable data foundations.
Yeah. Also, we will try not just to discuss theory, but walk you through some real cases where messy data caused problems and lessons we learned from fixing them.
All right, so let's start with our stories. Not just made up ones, but truly experienced ones. Who will be the first?
Let it be me. I'm sure you don't mind.
Sure.
By the way, I would suggest getting more familiar with 6 data quality elements one by one, namely data accuracy, completeness, consistency, timeliness, uniqueness, and validity. At the beginning of our journey, we can dive into the most critical one, and to be honest, the hardest to measure. It is data accuracy.
Yes, the foundation of everything.
Yeah. So, here's the deal. Data accuracy basically means your data actually reflects reality. Like, if you are tracking some customer ages, those numbers should be their actual ages without any random guesses. And it needs to come from sources you can trust and say, okay, this is legit, such as government databases, official researches, reputable publications.
Right, but here is where it gets really tricky, right?
Yeah, I know where you are going with this.
Yes, because sometimes you literally can't verify the data yourself. Actually, we had similar challenge at one project where we used visitor counts data from multiple venues. But the data itself came from a third-party vendor. So they gave us this estimated visitor counts, and we were supposed to build our entire analysis around them.
It seems you couldn't double-check their numbers.
Yeah, think about it. To actually verify that data, we'd have to send people to count real visitors in different locations in another country. So the client's budget was definitely not covering that.
Okay, yeah, fair point.
Yes. So we did actually what we could. We checked data profiling, we checked data for internal consistency, like usual quality checks, right? But we couldn't even get proper metadata as well because the dataset itself was very sensitive. And basically, we had to rely on the vendor.
And let me guess, that didn't end well.
Unfortunately, weeks into the project, major inaccuracies were identified. So the whole thing got delayed, and eventually we had to change and switch to another data provider entirely.
That is why we need to be really, really careful when we are relying on external data sources. If we cannot verify it ourselves, then we fully depend on someone else. And that's a major risk we take on.
Yeah, let's keep going then. So the next thing we need to ensure is that our data is actually complete. So that means our data includes everything we expect. All the values, all the correct data types, for instance, and nothing is missed or left out. We want to be confident that we are not overlooking anything important, because even missing one small piece can throw off the results entirely. And we can't forget about metadata either, right? That's the extra information that could help us to know what data really means and how the data were collected. So when our data is complete, we get the whole picture, and that makes our analysis way more reliable and a lot easier to trust.
I am with you on this. Once we faced a situation when the data team struggled to get complete data from a single source. To fill the gaps, they had to combine several data sources to generate the required features for the specific products. However, a software bug caused a partial data loading failure, resulting in missing records and reporting information for the reporting team.
Unfortunately, it's such a common issue, right?
Yeah, and the root cause can be like technical or organizational, and in this situation, it was both. Since different teams owned separate parts of the data flow, the reporting team detected the defect and shared their observation with the data team. Finally, the problem was identified and resolved by adjusting the data loading process. As a result, data completeness was restored, reporting accuracy improved, and the risk of business impact from incomplete data was minimized. So, we avoided such things as skewed numbers and misinformed decisions.
Mm-hmm. And this example really shows how important it is to have teams coordinate quickly and keep communication clear whenever there is any issue with the data. So that's what helps us keep our data quality solid as well. Another big thing, we've got to keep our data consistent everywhere, in all systems, in all datasets. In other words, the same piece of information should look and mean the same everywhere it appears. There shouldn't be any mismatches or conflicting values between different databases or files. Because, if things don't match up, you can't really trust the numbers.
Definitely. Especially when you deal with various data providers or bring a new one into the established process.
Yeah, because otherwise, analytical reports based on inconsistent data might confuse end users, and that will make insights less clear.
I recall how we wanted to prevent any inconsistency issue during the renaming process. That's why we discussed the expected changes, defined the scope of work, all dependencies, and provided some rough estimates to make it easier to plan all future work for the involved teams. Of course, everyone did their best, trying to consider all possible scenarios and share concerns to avoid any issues that could lead to incorrect transformations, corrupted data formats, missing values, missing records, etc. To sum up, coordinated and timely work, along with effective communication among the teams, played a key role in the success. All right, so we've been talking about all these technical aspects. accuracy, completeness, consistency. But let's step back for a second and talk about something that really gets managers' attention.
Oh, probably you mean money.
You're right. Actually, bad data can lead to significant financial losses. Here's a number that should wake everyone up. Gartner estimates that poor data quality costs the average enterprise around $13 million each year, and that's just the average. So we can assume some organization may lose even more.
Right. And you know what's wild? Most companies doesn't even realize they're losing that much. It's not like there is one invoice that says bad data cost you lots of money, right? It's just hidden everywhere.
Right. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. A little inefficiency here, a wrong decision there, some duplicate marketing spent over there.
Yeah, it's never just one thing. Bad data create this ripple effect that touches everything.
Let's take a closer look at the ripple effect.
Okay, so let's take an example with pricing data. It could start simply. You have bad data. Maybe it's outdated, maybe it's inaccurate, whatever. Then someone makes a bad decision based on that data. That bad decision leads to actual business impact. For instance, you may lose revenue, or you may waste marketing budget, or you stock the wrong products. The next step, customer may notice it. Because if you're constantly out of stock on popular items and your inventory data is wrong, customers get frustrated. So they can go to your competitor. And then there is a damage to your reputation.
Right. Once word gets out that your service is unreliable, or your prices are inconsistent, or you can't fulfill orders properly, that's really hard to recover from. We live in a world of online reviews and social media. So bad experiences spreads like bad news really fast. Therefore, a little data quality issue may snowball into this massive business problem.
Absolutely. And here is what's scary. Most of this is invisible until it's too late. So you don't see data quality as line in your, for instance, reports and your losses. You just see decreased sales, or maybe higher customer acquisition costs, or lower retention rates.
And what if you trace it back?
It's data, almost always.
Okay, so what I want everyone listening to do right now, please take a moment and think about what's one decision based on data that was made in your organization this week.
It could be anything. A marketing campaign, maybe hiring decision, inventory orders, or budget allocation.
Now ask yourself, how confident are you in that data? Like, really confident. Would you bet your own money on it being accurate, complete, and up to date? And if you hesitated even for a second when I asked that question, that's your true answer. That's where you need to focus.
And unfortunately, fixing data quality is not as exciting as, for instance, launching a new AI model or building a fancy dashboard. But it's the foundation. Without solid data, everything else is just pretty expensive guesswork.
Right. So, if you are watching this and thinking, okay, I need to do something about our data quality, stick with us. We are going to cover more elements and give you practical steps you can actually take.
But first, let's take a quick break for a message. Before we continue our discussion, if you are enjoying this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow Devtorium on LinkedIn. We share our insights about data, AI, tech advices, and real cases. And now, let's talk about timeliness. Basically, how fresh and up to date our data is. We want actually our information we are working with to reflect what's happening right now, not like what was true a month ago or week ago.
Right. And we can think of data timeliness the way you check food in your fridge. It's like asking, when was this made? Is it still new? When did we put it in the fridge? Together, all these questions tell us whether our data is still good to use. Also, keep in mind that up to date means different things for different use cases.
True. Like if you are monitoring a stock trading algorithm, up to date might mean updates every second, right? But if you are analyzing quarterly sales data, probably syncing data once a day could be fine as well. So it all depends on what you are trying to do.
But here's the thing, if your data is outdated, even the best analysis can lead us in the wrong direction.
And then the performed analysis become completely useless. And I've got a perfect example of this. So we had this project where the data arrived like really, really late. By the time we got the reports, the market trends had already changed, and our fresh insights were basically history lessons. So the problem was that the data provider uploaded their system only once a month, while we needed data to be updated on weekly basis. So we ended up with setting automated data pools and regular updates because outdated data is like yesterday news. No one really should make any important decisions based on them.
So, as we can see, timely data helps us make faster, smarter decisions related to what's going on at the moment. Okay, so what is next on our list? It's uniqueness. It means making sure there are no duplicates or unnecessary repeats in our data, right? Each record in the data set should appear only once and have something that makes it unique, like an ID or unique name. This prevents confusions, keeps our data clean, and ensures we are not counting the same information multiple times. By the way, Olena, do you recall any related cases that happened on the project like this?
Yes. Once, on a stage of analyzing data for the project, we found duplicated customers. So the same people appeared under different IDs. It turned out that every regional office of the company had its own way of keeping records. Because there were no any unified customer ID system or master data system. So that make it hard to track duplicates. So we had to play detectives with fuzzy matching and later recommended introducing a global unique ID and automated checks to prevent such situations in the future. So that's something we need to keep in mind always.
Can I chime in on this topic? Don't you mind?
Of course not.
Okay, so my story began when the team hit a snag while testing the adjusted data source file in the BI tool, which threw a duplicate presence error. The ETL process, like extract, transform, load, was already set up, and it was strange. The problem persisted despite the step of removing duplicates being in place. And later, we found out that one name contained extra white space. And this white space, for some reason, was recognized at the transformation step, but not at the loading step. As far as you know, the key field must include only unique values to establish a one-to-many relationship. However, This name was part of the key and caused duplicates. The only way we found to resolve the issue was to remove extra white space and duplicate rows before loading the data into the BI tool. The puzzle was cracked.
And probably that was a really long day for you.
True. Anyway, speaking of data quality, what about validity? Do you remember how several years ago we worked with the data collected from an application? It wasn't a surprise when we noticed some incorrect data entries. That often happens when users need to fill in some specific information manually.
Yeah, I remember and I know exactly where this is going. Every data analyst, at least once in a life, has seen those free text fields that become a nightmare.
So, validity is basically making sure people can't just type whatever they want.
That's true. So we must ensure that the data meets business rules and formats. So this means the data follows specific rules or standards and parameters that are set by the organization itself. Such things like how values should be structured or formatted or categorized, for instance.
So, coming back to our issue, the team reviewed the identified cases and decided to use drop downs with predefined business values wherever possible, instead of entering text. Afterwards, we double checked the data validity again, and it was much better than before. This way, we improved the overall data quality used in the project.
Yes. So when data aligns with these rules, it's easier to process, analyze, and integrate data into other systems without having errors or confusions. So, as you see, improving data quality is not a one time project, it's an ongoing process. All right, so we have covered all data quality elements. But there is something we absolutely need to talk about before we wrap up, and that is AI and machine learning. You probably heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
It's been around forever in data science. But with traditional analytics, if you have bad data, you might get some wrong numbers in the report, for instance, or dashboard. And probably someone will notice it and you will have chance to fix it. But with AI and machine learning, that garbage in, garbage out principle is amplified.
Because the model basically learns from that garbage.
Yes, and then it makes thousands or maybe sometimes millions of decisions based on them. And no one is double checking each one, right?
Okay, that sounds pretty terrifying when you put it like that.
Mm-hmm. Because we have seen this go wrong in real life. So we worked on a project where recommendation system was being trained to suggest some products to customers. So the training data were coming from historical purchases. And that seems logical, right? But here is the problem. The historical data had hidden bias. So some certain products in certain regions were sold more often not because customers preferred them, but because of inventory issues and logistics.
In other words, the AI learned the wrong patterns. It learned to recommend products based on what has been available, not on what customer actually wanted.
Right. And the result? Recommendations were skewed. Customers in some regions kept getting suggested the same limited product range, while actually better fitting products were never shown to them.
So no one noticed the problem at first, because the model itself looked totally fine, correct?
Yeah, it took us digging deep into the training data to find that bias. So once we cleaned up the dataset, and retrained our model with more balanced data, the performance improved dramatically.
I see. It was a really nice example. Thank you. So, we've covered the fundamentals and the business impact, and I think that's a good place to wrap up for today. On that note, thank you all for listening to today's episode of Devtorium Podcast. If you found this discussion useful, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow Devtorium on LinkedIn, where we publish content for everyone, whether you are a developer or an entrepreneur looking to upgrade your business digitality.
And big thanks to you, Oksana, for sharing your insights. And also to everyone tuning in for being part of this conversation about more strategic use of the data.
Thank you as well, Olena. So, dear viewers, start your data quality journey as soon as possible. See you next time. Stay data-driven, stay curious, and never stop improving your strategy. Bye.
Bye.